Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run through the weather warnings. We do have a wind and rain warning issued for parts of western areas and parts of Northern Ireland. We'll also then have a look at the UKV, look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days as it's remaining very unsettled and on the chilly side as well. But as we'll see in the longer range, as we look at the GFS, GEM, ECMWF and the ensembles, it's getting highly likely now December does start pretty cold. It does look likely that we will see higher pressure pushing to our north, and we will be pulling in an easterly flow off the near continent. The depth of that cold and how wintry it will be, that is yet to be determined. But will it be below average? Highly likely. Will it be really quite cold and frosty and foggy? Probably as well. Will we see any snow or wintriness? There is the possibility, and with colder air masses in off the near continent, low dew points, we could see snowfall quite widely in terms of possible snowfall and sort of the parameters for snowfall. But whether we will see the precipitation or anything like that, we'll have to really see, because all the models have got slightly different positions of the high, all the different depths of cold. So we'll have to decipher that during the second half of the video. But the models are definitely now all starting to converge on a colder first week of December with blocked easterly winds. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well. The link's in the description. Now, if you start on the live radar, you can see we did have a big band of precipitation that did sweep through earlier today, bringing a band of really quite heavy rain for about an hour or two. It did move through quite quickly, and now we've got a lot of blustery, heavy, and some thundery showers pushing in. Again, these little thundery showers are quite isolated, and mostly they're just moderate to heavy showers, and they are just coming in very quickly off the westerly flow, peppering really Northern Ireland, parts of Western Republic of Ireland, southern parts of Republic of Ireland, southwest England, southern Wales, and even further inland across the Midlands and northern England as well. And they'll just continue to move in through the afternoon and the evening before eventually starting to die away. Now, if you put on the temperatures as around 2 p.m, you can see it is not particularly cold today, but it's not particularly mild either. It's still really average. Cold, of course, across Scotland over the higher ground. You can see some lighter blues there, sort of low single digits, if not towards freezing. Elsewhere, blues and yellows, sort of towards the high single digits, sort of low teens, around that sort of 10 to 12 degree range. Max temperatures in a few spots. But of course, whenever we see the cloud and precipitation and blustery winds, it's always going to feel a little bit colder. You can look to our east, and if we do get to this to low, there is very cold air now out towards Eastern Europe, Belarus, Ukraine, up towards Russia and Scandinavia. And when we see this high pressure build up to our north, it will try to drag this air in. Again, nothing ridiculous. We haven't got ridiculously cold air masses there, but it will drag in air that is cold enough to bring us towards daytime temperatures in the low single digits, and overnight temperatures widely below freezing, meaning that it is going to be turning proper sort of winter conditions for the first week of December. Now, if you start by having a look at the weather warnings before we go on to that longer range stuff, we've got a rain and wind warning across parts of Wales and southern England, and then of course another wind warning across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. This rain and wind warning is from 10 a.m. tomorrow until 7 p.m. A brief spell of heavy rain and strong gusty winds, perhaps causing some travel disruption and flooding again. Very saturated ground, and that's why we've got these warnings. We could see a narrow band of heavy rain, perhaps briefly intense, will move eastwards late on Thursday. It looks like a bit of a squall feature, and it should move through the morning into the afternoon, clearing Kent during the evening. 10 to 15 millimetres in a couple of hours, with 20 millimetres in a few spots, and of course it's with saturated ground. This is likely to lead a fair amount of surface water and flooding in a few places. Strong winds will also be an additional hazard, with gusts of 40 to 50 miles per hour inland, and maybe 60-70 miles per hour on exposed coasts. Again, nothing too severe, but because we've got such saturated ground and these stronger winds, it is warranted for a warning. We've got another warning from 8 a.m. tomorrow until 2 p.m. tomorrow, just for winds this, 40 to 50 miles per hour inland, and perhaps 60 to 70 miles per hour along some exposed coasts as well. Again, could be really quite unsettled there. Now, if you go over to the UKV and have a look at these precipitation, wind and temperature charts, through the next 5 days. You can see that real heavy band of precipitation that moved through earlier, eventually clearing out to the North Sea, and then a lot of heavy, blustery and thundery showers spinning in from the west. They should slowly die away through the evening, and most areas will turn drier, apart perhaps from Scotland and parts of Republic of Ireland, and maybe a bit of northern England and Wales, a few isolated showers, but most areas turning drier. As we head through tomorrow, you can see this band of very intense, narrow, squally rain pushing in from the west, giving some real intense conditions for a time through the morning into the afternoon before eventually clearing and then going very blustery and rainy in from the west with more of these heavier showers. As we head into Friday afternoon, again, it actually turns up quite a bit drier. A bit of rain across Scotland and southwest England and parts of Wales, but it's generally drier. And as we head into Saturday, a huge deluge comes through, especially in the late afternoon into the evening for most areas, before eventually clearing out to the North Sea for the early hours of Sunday, before eventually turning slightly drier for Sunday, before again more showers pushing in through the west on Sunday and Monday. If you do put on the wind gusts for tomorrow, just to have a look at those, you can see as we head into tomorrow, you can see those wind gusts getting up towards sort of 60, maybe 70 miles per hour in a few spots, and maybe even isolated to 80 across exposed coasts. But again, nothing crazy, but it still could cause some disruption. If you finish on the UKV by having a look at the max temperatures, you'll see generally it is chilly, but nothing too out of the ordinary for this time of year. You see this afternoon, widely temperatures in the mid to high single digits, maybe 10 to 12 degrees in the far south. Overnight tonight, temperatures not dropping away too much, maybe mid single digits, again, nothing too unusual for this time of year. And by Thursday afternoon, widely 10 to 12 degrees, maybe mid to high single digits further northwards in the day. Overnight into Friday, again, mid-single digits overnight, and Friday afternoon, again, sort of 9 to 11 degrees, widely cold in the north. And into early hours of Saturday, cold once again, and by Saturday afternoon, 10 to 12 degrees. Into Sunday, again, not too cold overnight, and by Sunday afternoon, widely sort of 9 to 11 degrees, and that again is similar into Monday, where it actually starts to cool down a little bit overnight, maybe more towards the low single digits, and it will be turning increasingly colder as we end November and start December, looking very cold from some of these runs today. Now, if you go to the GFS and look at the latest 6 o'clock run, now the midnight run did go really mild, but it was a huge anomaly, as we'll see in the Ensemble members at the end of the video. But it is turning increasingly colder over the course of the next few weeks. From around sort of day 8, day 9, it's turning very cold. You can see westerly winds at the moment, no signs of anything colder or anything northerly or easterly based. And as we head towards the weekend, more of a southwesterly tilt, so turning briefly milder for a time. As we head into next week, the high pressure is building over the top of us and towards Scandinavia, and look what happens, the winds veering from an easterly direction. Again, they're originating from sort of eastern, maybe southeastern Europe, so they're not remarkably cold, but they are cold, colder than average definitely, and could bring some winteriness as well once some of this cold air gets dragged in from Russia in the longer term. Maybe even the -10 isotherm on some models bring that in. It all the way, it sort of hangs all the way right towards the end of the run, keeping us in a cold easterly. And yeah, even though the upper air temperatures may not be ridiculously cold, if we see persistent, generally cold upper air temperatures towards the surface with very low levels of solar radiation this time of year, and general high pressure, we can still see an inversion, and with generally colder upper air temperatures as well, that inversion could be really quite severe. And upper air temperatures of -5 degrees at 800 THPA could give us freezer-like temperatures that another time of the year would require -10 the isotherm to get in. So even though the upper air temperatures don't look ridiculously cold here, it still could produce some very severe conditions. Now, if you run back and have a look at the 850 THPA temperatures here, the high pressure starts to build in really next Monday. And Tuesday, high pressure built up to our north, and eventually we veer those winds in from the east. -5 isotherm comes in, quite a small patch of that colder air, for eventually some very cold air gets dragged into the first week of December, maybe the -10 isotherm moving in, looking very cold there, potentially even snowy for some, where we have that temperature gradient across northern Europe. Could be some winteriness and some snowfall along that, and all the way to 384 hours remaining in generally cold air. Eventually that air does run out. If we did want to see anything really severe, we need this high pressure to go further northwards, maybe towards Svalbard and Greenland, to drag this real cold air around. But this is still a very cold, chilly pattern to start December. Now, if we have a look at the potential equivalent temperatures as well, you'll be able to see this even better. We're just consistently in darker blues. No sort of breakaway from that. And again, it shows you the very cold continental airflow coming in. And look at that, even maybe some purples getting in for a time there towards the first week of December, keeping it increasingly cold. And towards the surface, of course, those temperatures will cool down as well, with a bit of an inversion taking place, even when those upper air temperatures are not ridiculously cold. So yeah, GFS today, very much on board with the easterly winds, turning increasingly colder into the first week of December. And of course, these sort of blocking patterns usually do prolong for a period of time. So if we did see this sort of continue into the middle of the month and start to drag some even colder air out from Russia and the North Pole, like we're seeing here towards Eastern Europe, then it could send us even more severe towards the middle of the month, and dare I say towards the Christmas period. It could be very interesting indeed. Again, it could all change by the middle of December, but from what history tells us, very rarely do we just get a week of easterly winds and then it just disintegrates to westerlies. We tend to sort of get this sort of drip feeding through a matter of many weeks, with normally a few sort of colder spells, some that are not as cold as others, some that could be really severe. So if we did see this easterly properly come off, I wouldn't be surprised if to see December have repeated bouts of higher pressure blocking. Whether they come off and produce anything ridiculously cold or anything, we'll have to see nearer the time. But do I think that this is going to be setting up a very interesting December? Yes, indeed. And the first week does look pretty cold. If you go to the GEM, see how that does compare. Again, westerly winds at the moment remaining fairly unsettled. Higher pressure building in towards the middle of next week. Up to our north, and we are pulling in easterly winds. Again, nothing ridiculous with that air mass generally coming in from eastern or southeastern Europe, and it remains fairly cold all the way to day 10 and blocked up towards Svalbard and Scandinavia. It could go temporarily milder there with a westerly flow trying to push in, with a blocking to our north. Wouldn't be surprised if that's strengthened and pulled in further easterlies in the longer term. If we have a look at the upper air temperatures, again you can see cold air sweeping in from the east for the first day of December. Again, nothing ridiculously cold initially, but you can see colder air is seeping out into Scandinavia and Eastern Europe, and that could bring us even colder in the longer term. And once again, I have to emphasise, even when the upper air temperatures are not ridiculous, with higher pressure, very low solar radiation this time of year, even with not ridiculously cold upper air temperatures, it could cause us to be very cold towards the surface. But we would need those upper air temperatures to be quite cold if we were to see anything wintry in terms of precipitation. So definitely we do think it's going to be turning a lot colder. Definitely do think that highs for the first week of December are going to be in around that sort of mid-single digit range, if not a little bit colder. Overnight temperatures below freezing. Whether we see any snow with this, we'll have to see near the time. Again, depends on the exact patterns, any little systems that develop, any little lows, upper troughs, things like that, and how brisk the easterly wind is as well will decide those factors. And of course, the air mass as well. So I have to see about that over the course of the next few days and the next few weeks in general. Now, if we do run up towards the ECMWF and see how that does compare over the next couple of weeks, again, you can see that we've got a westerly flow generally at the moment. Again, that is bringing in Atlantic systems, keeping us very unsettled. As we head towards the next week, higher pressure builds to our north, an easterly wind comes in, and a real big blocked area. Again, for something ridiculously cold, you'd want this further northwards, but at least it is producing generally cold easterly winds. And you can see there is a generally warm air mass across the near continent, but if you look at the surface, it's a lot colder. It's below freezing overnight. So again, just an example of inversion sort of pattern. And you look at the United Kingdom and look at that widely towards freezing at midnight on the 3rd of December, inland that is. And again, look at the upper air temperatures. They're not ridiculously cold, around -2, -3, but it's because it's coming from an easterly direction, low dew points, and generally colder direction. But of course, anything severe, we need to see more of a brisk easterly with this. Now, if we do finish by having a look at the Ensemble members. Now, the 6 o'clock run had come out, but for some reason it's not working, getting an error message while trying to load it. So I have to look at the midnight run. The 6 o'clock run had put a few more milder runs towards the first couple of days of December, but the general consensus was still for a generally cold pattern. You can see over the next week, we're around average, maybe slightly above, slightly below. And then as soon as we hit sort of the last day of November into the start of December, we are well below average. Average from the Ensemble members down to -2, -3 degrees, and quite a few getting down towards that -5 and lower. A few quite severe down towards -8 to -10. So very cold. The operational one was off the charts in terms of milder conditions, but generally we are quite cold and turning a lot dry as well. So definitely a consensus for cold easterly winds to start December. And again, you can see that from the dew point here from the midnight run, again trending all towards freezing in the longer term, again getting moderated up by some of those milder outliers. And again, look at the 2 meter temperature from that, again trending down towards the mid single digits. And of course it will not do the overnight temperatures justice, because it doesn't always doesn't cope with those in the longer term. Those would be more towards the freezing or below, but the daytime highs all around that sort of 4 to 6 degree range from the majority of the Ensemble members. So again, cold, we need maybe a few degrees colder to see anything properly wintry, but of course we're still so far away, and the general pattern now looks highly likely to see cold easterlies to start the month. For the time being though, we've got mild westerlies or average sort of westerly winds, very unsettled conditions to come. It is going to be turning drier and colder towards the first week of December, so hopefully that is something some people are going to be looking forward to. Yes, it's going to be colder, but at least it'll be a bit drier with this. There probably will still be showers, but we'll be cutting out all those huge deluges we're getting in from the west. So we're sort of replacing the wetter weather with colder, drier weather, in quite a big flip within like a sort of few days really. So yeah, December starting very interesting, and it could set up a very cold December potentially, but the signs are there and we're starting to see them to come to fruition. We've been alluding to this a lot through the winter look aheads over the course of October and November, and finally we're seeing them properly come into the shorter time frame within the models we do in our daily videos. So yeah, very pleased to be seeing our sort of long range predictions coming off. But of course we'll have to have a look at the day-to-day stuff when it comes into the even shorter time frame. So we'll have keep having a look at this. We'll have pretty nailed down exactly what's going to happen through the first week of December, probably by the weekend, maybe early next week, towards sort of the 27th, 28th, 29th. That's when we'll have a real good idea of how cold this easterly could be. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.